Let's continue talking about symptoms in this unit number 4. Let's remember the objectives that we have for this unit. So let's focus our attention in our second objective, that is asking about symptoms and injuries. In the previous units, we were checking how to create a patient assessment by asking things like the name, the age, marital status, next to kin, how they are feeling when we are talking about pain. Okay, but in this unit, we're gonna focus our attention to these questions. What symptoms do you have? And we can answer these questions, by answering with the vocabulary that we checked in the previous video, like swollen or cough, sneezing, running nose, etc. Then we have these two questions that will be covered in this objective and in this section. That is, can you tell me what happened and what were you doing when the symptoms appear? So if you pay close attention to this, you will see that we are talking about the past tense. Can you tell me what happened? Do you remember these images from the previous video? Check the first description. Aisha was playing outside this afternoon and she started having difficulty breathing. She was coughing a lot and she said her chest felt tight. She took her blue inhaler, didn't you, Aisha? But as it didn't seem to get any better, I brought her in. I've never seen her asthma as bad as this. And then we have the second one. I was getting out of the bath when the chest pain started. I felt a sharp stabbing pain in my chest, and suddenly it was difficult to breathe. I was very breathless, and I also started feeling very dizzy. I almost fell down, but I called my wife to come to help me. So as you can see here, we are paying attention to the past tense. Do you remember the past tense? I'm quite sure you do. So let's do a very quick review here. Remember that we have these two types of past tense. We have the simple past or past simple that is used to talk about finished actions. For example, I started taking gentle exercise and my asthma symptoms improved. Then we have past continuous that is to talk about continuous or interrupted actions in the past. You were coughing all night. What about the structure? Remember that when we have the past simple, we need to use verbs in past tense. Don't forget that we have two types of verbs. We have regular verbs that only need the ed suffix to create a past tense, but also we have irregular verbs like run, that is run, like teach, that is taught, like buy, that is bought, etc. So it is important for this unit, guys, that you review how to create the past tense of the verbs. Especially pay close attention to those verbs that are related to accidents and injuries, obviously, because we are talking about symptoms in this unit. What about the past continuous? As any other continuous tense, we need two elements. The verb to be, in this case, were or was, and then the verb with ing or gerund. So, the difference between was and were, do you remember the difference between was and were? Yes, the difference is the subject. If the subject is I, he, she, it, we're gonna use was. If my subject is you, we, and they, we're gonna be using were. And the verb in gerund or with ing is always used, always. So don't forget that point, that is very important. And normally we can ask the question, can you tell me what happened? Or as we check in one of the previous slides, what were you doing when the symptoms appear? Because you know that sometimes it is like a little accident. Can you tell me what happened? Or sometimes it is because we are doing an activity and then the symptoms appear. If you remember in the previous video, we were checking this image of this soccer player having a cramp. So what were you doing when the symptoms appear? I was playing soccer. Okay, can you tell me what happened? I have an example here. Okay, for example, I was getting out of the bath. That is what the person was doing. So you can ask both questions. Let me show you this example of Kiana. Can you tell me what happened? Okay, so imagine that we are talking to Kiana's mother. Kiana was playing in the tree house when she fell down. Okay, so we are describing this. Observe, she was playing when she fell down. This is an irregular verb. I didn't see her. Oh, what about the negative sentences? Remember that when we are using the simple past, we're going to use did and not and the verb in simple form. Don't forget that. That is very important. Didn't see. I didn't see her, but she started crying. Regular verb. When I arrived, her head was bleeding. Yes. So we have now when. She also told me her left arm was hurting. While I was trying to calm her down, I called my husband and we took her here. So when our patient is telling us the story about what happened, we can also find these kind of expressions like when I arrived, while I was trying. So what is the grammatical rule here? When we have when, we're going to use simple past, and when we have while, we're going to use the continuous one. Remember that we can also call it progressive, but we say continuous because this is a British book, and we will say progressive because of the American version. Okay, that is the difference, but it is the same idea. Okay, so do you remember this grammar? Are you ready for the practice? So let's do it.